All right, welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Thank you all for being patient and hanging around. Today is Monday, September 28th, 2020. We're glad you guys could tune in and be a part of tonight's Grand Solar Minimum News Update. And wow, is it a big one. Good to see a lot of you faces out here, new faces and old. Thank you for tuning in. Again, apologize for being late there, but we got it all figured out. Right now, our solar wind speeds are sitting at a 657.6 kilometers per second with a density of 8.0. Now, earlier today, we started to see solar winds subside, but now they are picking back up. Believe it or not, that is not a sunspot. It does not possess the dark cores to make it a sunspot. Therefore, we are blank, and that makes 2 days in a row. But I'm not going to give up on AR 2773 just yet, as we've seen it emerge and then disappear and then come back and then disappear again. So we'll continue to watch it. But guys, this coronal hole that I was talking about on Friday is producing all of this solar wind right now. And when you have solar wind speeds at this rate, you're going to be dealing with a G1, a G2 type storm. Right now, our KP indices are sitting at a 5 with a 24-hour max of a 6. And we just jumped back into storm conditions, folks. We were sitting at a 4 for quite some time. And that was also when solar wind speeds were in the mid 500s. And just in the last hour, they've jumped up almost to 660 kilometers per second. So that is why there is so much excitement as well when it comes to aurora. I've seen quite a few articles being passed around today about the auroras that will be visible as far as the U.S., and that is because we are experiencing right now a G2 geomagnetic storm. TCI is up at 4.12. That's up a bit from the 3s. And with all this solar wind speed, you can expect the very top of the atmosphere to see temperatures go up just a smidge. All right, so let's go over to the grandsolarminimum.com. And by the way, before we do that, geomagnetic activity is subsiding, but now we are dealing with more solar wind flow from that coronal hole that we spoke about on Friday. And now we will see those effects here over the next several hours. The forecasters say there is a chance for more G1 and G2 class storms on September 28th and tomorrow, September 29th, as our planet continues its transit through high-speed stream of solar wind. And they were looking at wind speeds somewhere around the 600 range or higher. I thought it was going to be somewhere in the low 600 as well. I want to thank Alan Robinson for the super chat. Thank you very much. We are subscriber supported. So, folks, we definitely appreciate that. And thank you once again, Alan, as well. So with that being said, let's go over to our space weather section at grandsolarminimum.com, thegrandsolarminimum.com. And let's check out some further stats. Interesting solar X-ray flux. No solar flares since the C class that we had just before the 26th of September. And since that solar flare, now, activity has flattened out, but you can see where the solar winds, the KP indices are very high. In fact, they've been at a 5 for 4 for quite some time. We are back at 5. Again, very early or late September 28th, early September 28th when we saw the G2 storm. We are expecting a possibility of another G2. Stay tuned to that as well. And let's check out in the SDO. That is the coronal hole that I spoke of on Friday. And yes, it is further north, but this is now past Earth facing. So that's why tomorrow, and maybe even on the 30th, we'll still feel the effects from this particular coronal hole. After that, things might be quieting down a little bit. We do see a small coronal hole in the southern region of our star, a very, very small one. So we're talking about a minor jolt in solar wind speed, if any at all. But let's take a look at the SDO motion here in the 193 angstrom. And we see that coronal hole turning away. This also will coincide with some seismic activity that I got to report on as well. Not from today. And check out this. We look like we might be quiet again for a while. I'm not giving up on AR 2773, but it could be another long streak of days without sunspot. And again, you've heard over and over again about how NASA has declared that solar cycle 25 is now in effect. And a lot of folks thought that meant that solar activity would come back to our sun like that. And that's not the way it works. Unfortunately, going up and down, it takes a long time. In fact, when we started broadcasting on this channel in late 2016, we witnessed a very slow beginning of a minimum. And now we will watch the slow beginning of a maximum. I mean, that's just because that's how the cycles work. So right now, we look quiet, but anything could change. The sun is beginning to wake up, as we've seen quite a few things. We've had solar wind speeds reach almost 670 kilometers per second multiple times. In the past 4 days, we've seen 3 different occasions of solar wind speeds increasing over 500 and KP indices at storm levels. So just like that, we've had 3 minor G1 to G2 storms. Again, G2 is not that strong either. We're talking very minor communication issues, maybe possible, maybe some GPS disruptions, brownouts, but nothing that shuts down the grid or nothing like that. So these are very minor storms, and we're going to continue to see the year peppered with these kinds of geomagnetic storms, and it's going to climb up eventually by the time we get to our maximum. But I really think that this cycle is going to be very different. And when we talk about if NASA is willing to admit that this cycle is going to be equal to cycle 24 or just slightly weaker, to me, that's them being brutally honest, because they're always higher than what the actual prediction actually is going to be. So if we look at it from that standpoint, it's a very good possibility that NASA and NOAA are off. They're over. They're high. Well, I mean, they could be anyway, but I'm saying the numbers, they might be high on their predictions. And if it comes in at a medium pace, like somewhere around 91, 97 is a smooth sunspot count for solar cycle 25. That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, that's not that big of a, that's how close we are on the prediction right now. So interesting to see solar activity taking a long time to form. And I mentioned this Friday as well. Usually an indication of a weak solar cycle is when you have a slow beginning to the next cycle. And we have read to you articles where scientists are saying that solar cycle 25 has been a very, very slow beginning. So lots of indications that are pointing to a weak solar cycle. 11 years, we'll all come back and talk about it, I'm sure of it. And that's just the way it goes, guys. That doesn't mean we're not going to see grand solar minimum conditions throughout the next 3 to 4 years, because remember, what was going down was extreme. It's still going to be in that same level of what we were experiencing when we were going down. So it's just going to be a little bit backwards now. By the time we get to 2025, it's not expected to be normal type weather, where 2014, in my opinion, we had some very abnormal weather in that solar max, and that was at 147 smooth sunspots. So, I mean, 2014 was the year we had the 3 major polar vortex blasts in the Ohio Great Lakes, Ohio Valley. I'll never forget that. It got really cold. We got a daytime high in Dayton, Ohio, right around the 6th of January, I believe, was negative 17 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not the kind of cold we're used to in that part, southwestern Ohio. So definitely that polar vortex, when we had 3 different waves. The first blast was brutally cold. The second blast, we were looking at daytime highs at -9. The third blast was more hovering around 0. So 2014, even though it was during solar max, we still saw some very extreme weather when it came to, especially the winter that year. In Southwest Ohio, I also remember a lot more snow that year, believe it or not. So again, guys, lots to talk about today. But the coronal hole that I mentioned on Friday, and I wanted to point this out really quick because this is the earthquake activity over the past 7 days. And I found it interesting. I'm getting ready to report on a 6.2 in South Africa, but I want you guys to focus on these 3 earthquake areas, 2 here, 4 here, and then a cluster in this part of the region. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this, it's almost a straight line across. And I'm sure you all watch other earthquake, but I want everybody to pay attention to the activity. And we're talking about the New Madrid. And this is stuff that John Casey talked about in his book Upheaval. Something pretty big like this could be happening within the next, I don't know, 20. He thinks something between now and 2037, we could see a VEI 7 or a major megaquake as something to involving the New Madrid. And this 6.2 earthquake, the shallow one, for me, I felt like after I saw this report of the 6.2, several hours later, we get these earthquakes across the New Madrid. So things are really starting to line up in more than one way. And again, this is just another example of what space weather does to our planet. And I talked about this Friday, and this was on the 26th. So almost 24 hours into the watch, we get that 6.2. Saturday was a big day for space weather. We got the solar flare that was a C class. We got this earthquake. We got hit by solar wind, beginning of the first wave of solar wind, and that issued a G1 geomagnetic storm. And then, of course, we had this earthquake, the 6.2, south of Africa, and then across the New Madrid and in parts of the central United States. I mean, look at that. It's uniform, folks. So very active Friday through Monday so far when you talk about seismic activity, space weather, and here you go. So how else are we going to see things change as well? Well, we talked about this Friday as well. Strong cold front to push across the central U.S., bringing significant drop in temperatures. And showers and thunderstorms are expected to continue to develop along behind a cold front as it tracks through the eastern third of the U.S. through the first half of the week. Now, right now, I can tell you where we are in upstate New York. We've enjoyed a nice 78 degrees, rain off and on today. Tomorrow, more the same, mid-70s, rain again. And then Wednesday, we start to see that cooler weather, 65. And after that, we drop into the 50s for high temperatures for at least 6 days in a row, with nighttime lows between 30 and 34. But excessive rainfall is possible in parts of the southern Appalachian along the southeast coast on Monday, September 28th. That was today. The front is forecast to slow down as it reaches on the east coast Tuesday, which, along with increasingly rich moisture ahead of it, raises the threat for heavy rainfall accumulation spreading north from southeast to the northeast by late Tuesday. A slight risk of flash flooding has been issued for the Carolinas to the northern mid-Atlantic on Tuesday. The cold front progresses so slow that a marginal risk for flash flooding is also in place from the Carolinas, and I think they just said that, but thank you. It's like that phrase, you measure twice and you cut once, and thank you for measuring twice and cutting once here. Let's see here. Following a modest cool down, which will push high temperatures 3 to 6 degrees Celsius for the rest of the world. For us Americans, that's 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Below late September averages early this week, the region will see more drastic cool down for the second half of the week. Yes, indeed. By Friday, October 2nd, temperatures across the upper Midwest and the western Great Lakes will be about 10 to 20 degrees below normal, followed by widespread highs of 10 to 15 degrees on Saturday across the Great Lakes, Midwest, Ohio, and Tennessee valleys. Taking a look at the cold air in motion. And yes, we do get warmer air returning to the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, into the East Coast, but quickly is vanished. Look, another blast of very cold air for this time of year, folks. So we get what we think is going to be an Indian summer for about a day or two, and back to cooling we go. Antarctic blast brings rare September snowfall, unusually cold temperatures to parts of Australia. A strong Antarctic blast swept through parts of South Australia and Victoria on Friday, September 25th, 2020, bringing significant snowfall and the coldest September day since 1969. The snow was reported at elevations as low as 660 feet. Goodness. Again, southwest of Victoria recorded about 1.6 inches. Not a big deal, but it is spring technically over here right now. And also, New Zealand. Bomb cyclone unleashes travel disrupting snow across New Zealand. A powerful storm brought on by an early spring snowfall to parts of New Zealand at the start of this week. Heavy snowfall blanketed roadways and grounded flights in parts of southern New Zealand as the large storm system underwent rapid strengthening on Sunday and Sunday night local time. The storm was considered the worst of the season, according to the New Zealand Met Service, The Guardian reported, and also says it was very unusual how widespread the severe weather is. Snow was reported as far south as New Zealand, Stewart Island, and the Weather Service referred to the event as severe September chill on its website. So here we are, early spring. We get a bomb cyclone, unusually cold weather in an area that is going to see spring soon. We are experiencing a cold blast across the United States. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because we always have to pay attention to what's happening in the Southern Hemisphere, namely Australia. You get a good idea what your season's going to look like. So we're already seeing September, the September chill as well, and we get into October, and we're going to feel like November in some areas. So the cold is here early already for some of the United States. Not all. The West Coast is going to be hot. The Northwest, even into, this is typical grand solar minimum pattern setup. So the cold's here early. And Australia and New Zealand are still experiencing snow and bomb cyclone systems in early spring. Now, I've said it all year, and it's followed this classic pattern of a short, hot summer with a long, cold, annoying winter. I'm not saying we're getting the winter-like temperatures yet, but we are cooling off nicely. And, just 2 weeks ago, we had the AC on. It was in the mid-80s. It was hot for a couple days. Now, there's no way we're getting out of the 50s for the remainder of the week from Wednesday forward. And even daytime averages after that are going to average in the low 60s through the middle of October. And it does not look like it's going to let up. So we got the bomb cyclone, the Antarctic blast, cold late spring or early spring snow for the Southern Hemisphere. Watch out, United States. We could have early cold and a late winter into the spring. So what are the other effects of grand solar minimum? Well, 225,000 affected as a third wave of flooding hits Assam, India. And yes, this is the third wave. I think I talked about the first wave of this 3 or 4 weeks ago. At least 225,000 people have been affected in 9 districts of Assam, India, as the ongoing third wave of flooding worsens. This is according to authorities out there on September 27, 2020. Around 25,000 acres of cropland and 219 villages have been inundated. Hundreds of people have taken shelter in 43 relief camps, and 1 person is drowned in the floodwaters. This on top of 90,000 new daily cases of the COVID-19 out there. So we have so many people displaced from floods out there, shutdowns. This is a disaster, a nightmare scenario, folks. When you have to be displaced, 225,000 people displaced. How many of those 225,000 people could be infected and are passing the virus around? Again, these are the kinds of things that this channel, if you go to our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com, look up the resources button. Let's go do that right now, actually, since we're talking about it. Mari built this website for me, and it is just, I need to talk about it more because folks ask a lot of questions and they want to know where we get some of the information. And it's right here on this website. It talks about everything that we're talking about. Climate Depot, David Dilley, Roy Spencer, No Trick Zone, Per Strandberg, Piers Corbin, Real Climate Science with Tony Heller, and of course, What's Up With That? We've got the weekly crop reports here. So there's so many things to use as resources. And when we're talking about the amount of rainfall, the flooding that's going on all over, the crop loss that's happening, and it's not just about war, it's not just about cooling, but the other part of this is extreme flooding, the grand solar minimum, because we are right now in an abundance of cosmic radiation dosage. Even at 8.2%, that is still high, very high. I mean, I think the low is negative 39. That's the record low during a maximum. So right there should tell you just how high these actual space radiation, cosmic radiation dosage rates are. But that's what's causing these floods. Third wave in India. And then here we go to Sudan. And it's more of the same, guys. And it's not to be a Debbie Downer. It's to bring awareness. This has nothing to do with climate change or CO2. This is all about cosmic rays. Highly charged particles in the atmosphere supercharging these water vapor droplets, creating cloud nucleation. 830,000 people affected as Sudan faces unprecedented challenges amid worst flood in the century. Unfortunately, 124 people have died from this. Almost 1 million people are affected. Humanitarian workers are struggling as funds are running out, which are necessary to continue operations to assist flood victims. Check out Sasha Dobler wrote a book on the plague, and there's a correlation to some of these plague during grand solar minimums. This stuff has been it's been documented in history throughout times. The floods, the famine, the crop loss, the plagues. I mean, look at 1918 when we had a century class solar minimum. Okay? And you had the pandemic. You don't think the high dosages of cosmic radiation didn't have something to do with an airborne flu that killed people within 8 hours? Some people died 8 hours after catching the Spanish flu. Now, I know back in 1918, medical help was ridiculous. It was not like it is today. I get that. But still, there is certain correlation that seem to follow these grand solar minimums, not just famine from crop loss, but dealing with death and plague and sickness, extreme temperatures, switching back and forth, the hot and cold, extreme rainfall, extreme snowfall. Last year, I thought we kind of got off the hook. It was the other parts of the world, the Alps, the typical Norway, Sweden, those areas saw more snowfall than we thought we were going to get last year. I can tell you that. It started off crazy in Great Falls, 49 inches in late September last year this time. Thankfully, we're not seeing that this year. But we are heading into a La Nina. Solar weather is very low, and the temperature patterns are already showing that we are cooling right now. But again, too many of these in the headlines every day. 830,000 people affected. Century-type flood. You could find one of these every day, and it's going to continue to happen for the next 3 to 4 decades, folks. I hate to say it. Even during 2025 and 2026. Magnetic field, and Dr. Zarkova's work has proven this, magnetic field is not going to be strong enough to protect like it does in a MAX. Let's go over to Mike's weather page. Change the subject a little bit here. How many of you like fall? Well, we are nearing peak in the northern parts of the United States. Upstate New York is starting to look gorgeous. You can already see Minnesota and UP of Michigan and Wisconsin. And of course, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, parts of northern New Mexico, absolutely gorgeous right now. I enjoy this time of year, and it feels like we're getting a fall. Usually it's summer, hot, 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 and then cool for a couple weeks, and boom, it's snowing. But I enjoy a little bit of fall, so here we are having it, and I'd say by next week this time, we're going to probably see a lot more of the country in the fall foliage map, for sure. But also, I wanted to point out on Mike's weather page, a very long streak of nothing burgers being cooked up in the Atlantic. This right here has a 50% chance of formation in 5 days. 5 days. Okay. And not that these people aren't important out here in Guatemala and Honduras and all that, but right now it does not seem like it's going to be an impact here in the U.S. anytime soon. But again, looking at Mike's weather page, we got a couple of disturbances that could be forming in the Gulf. I'll go over that here on the Gfs Outlook. Other than that, just dealing with some typical rain showers here across the Ohio Valley, moving now eastward of Columbus and heading towards the northeast. That rain, that persistent rain, will be here tomorrow all day long. And behind it, it's going to get a lot cooler over the next several days. So let's just get right into it, shall we? Let me go ahead and refresh this, see if I can get the whole thing here. There we go. So let's take a look at our GFS Outlook. There's that big cold front coming in right behind it. Lots of rain through Wednesday. Look Wednesday, and look at that. Heavy rain still going on for the capital region of New York overnight, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, early hours. As that front moves along, some back-end moisture, but doesn't last for long because there is high pressure moving in, which is drier air. And as you see, a lot of that moisture just fizzles out by the time we get to Friday, but much cooler air being brought into the northeast. A little bit of showers and storms there on Saturday. Nothing too serious, just some moderate stuff. Snow in eastern Canada already. High pressure trying to invade again in the northeast. And there we got a little low pressure system, and I do believe that is what they are watching that is in the Gulf right now, and that is not until October 4th. What's crazy about this is that looking at it on Mike's weather page, you would think this is something that's going to affect the central part near Guatemala and Honduras and lower parts there, but this storm could find its way through Florida, and and that's why you just can't go off of these GFS outlooks for too far. October 6th is probably as far as we need to go, but the models are suggesting that this gets drawn across Florida and then kind of redevelops in the Carolinas and Va Beach and the DC mid-Atlantic areas, and really some heavy moisture possible. And this is a week out, but usually within the 6 to 7 day range, it's pretty reliable. Also checking out another situation possible in the Gulf. So if we see any hurricane action, based on what I'm seeing with this GFS, we are definitely in favorable conditions for any more future storms, I think, here in the Gulf. I think that's what the GFS is trying to tell us. So through the rest of this month and into mid-October, expect our storms to be popping up throughout the Gulf. Finally, some snow in parts of the Northwest and areas that we were just talking about where they're at their peak fall foliage. And then by the 14th, we're expecting some moderate light snowfall. And what will the temperatures be like, you say? Across the United States, we're getting that warmth right now. Enjoy it, because after this cold front moves in, this is today right here, a little bit of that warmth bottled up in the East Coast. Huge cooling down here overnight. Look at this. The majority of the United States lows, overnight temperatures between 38 and 49 degrees across much of the United States. Even Texas getting down low, 55 near Dallas. Can't complain about that. There's daytime highs for the Northeast, the Ohio Valley. That's beautiful weather right there for Tuesday. And it gets better if you're a fan of hoodies and jeans. By the time we get to Thursday, daytime temperatures won't even make it out of the 60s. Friday, October 2nd, daytime highs in the mid-50s for much of the areas that we are looking at peak foliage right now as well. The Ohio Valley, also parts of the Mid-Atlantic, seeing the cooler. You guys can see it here on the radar. Look at that. Eastern Canada getting most of the freezing temperatures. By the time we get to October 5th, overnight lows close into freezing, high temperatures in the upper 60s, and then another cool down here by the 8th. Look at that sharp line. That's daytime highs. Look at that. October 8th. It is crushing that heat for sure. Keep it in the south. Again, these are about average high temperatures for this region this time of year. Maybe a little bit above, actually. But here we are, October 9th, and much of the Northeast will be below freezing. Daytime highs not reaching the 50s in some areas. Wow. Heating up across Central America, Central North America, I should say, and then staying relatively just perfect on the Northeast and the Northwest. Absolutely perfect for this time of year. Still some heat, though, in the South, Texas. Another cold front trying to work its way across the United States, bottling up some of that heat to the East Coast by Monday, October 12th. Again, more of that double dip pattern. If you love fall and you live in the Northeast, anywhere from Northeast Ohio all the way through Pennsylvania to the Northeast of the United States, gorgeous like fall weather, and even some chilly nights ahead as well. Looks like another push for some warmer air by the middle of October for much of the farm belt here and the Midwest into the Northeast. But even that, daytime highs only reaching 65 degrees in parts of the capital region of New York, 65 near Pittsburgh, and, Cincinnati, Ohio, 79 degrees. That's pretty warm for this time of year. But another cold blast behind this could end that pretty quick. Let's take a look at our El Nino region 3-4. La Nina definitely in effect. It is a weak La Nina right now at 0.877, but we have already flirted with 1 degree below baseline. And once we start getting to 1.2 below baseline, that is an indication of a strong La Nina. So a lot of forecasters say this is going to be a weak one. Right now, we're almost at moderate conditions as we speak. Let's take a look across the pond for our friends out there in the UK, Denmark, and France, and Germany, and everywhere else that we have worldwide subscribers. So we don't always get to cover weather, but there are 3 significant weather systems that are going to move through here in the UK over the next couple of weeks. Here comes system number 1, and that's going to be by Wednesday, September 30th. That's more or less going to be in the northern part of Ireland. And UK will just see some dreary rain as this will kind of spin around for a while. Another low pressure system will make landfall in France and bring lots of rain and possibly some higher elevation snows in some areas as we get closer to the Alps. But look at all that low pressure spinning around. There's system number 2 by October 4th. That's a Sunday. More dreary, rainy days for the UK, and snow across the Alps already flashing that pattern by the 6th of October. And there's system number 3 coming through for the UK and England. And by October 10th, possibly system number 4. Again, these are just speculations, but definitely a rainy pattern on the way for our friends across the pond in the UK, across parts of Germany, Denmark, lots of rain. Let's check out some of the temperatures that we'll be seeing over the next several days across the pond as well. And looks like we're starting to see some freezing temperatures where we should see them at this time of year. Again, the Alps, no question about it, they could see some snow. Temperatures are favorable right now as we look at this. And a lot of this temperatures I see in the UK looks pretty similar to most of the United States by this time of the year. So cooler weather definitely going to be taking place for parts of the UK and Ireland, and even well into mid-October. We start to see it heat up a little bit in Portugal and Spain, maybe a little bit warmer in France. But for the most part, Europe's going to stay just like us. Beautiful fall-like weather. Lots of rain, though, for the UK, parts of France, Germany, Denmark, unfortunately. But it does look like the hotter weather across the pond may be seeing an end. Like I said, Portugal and Spain could see some brief warm-ups as well. They look like they're getting the strongest of the warmth. Parts of the west coast of France also could see a little bit of warmer temperatures. But for the most part, guys, right now the seasons are acting their or minding their business and just being themselves right now. So we'll take the calm. We'll take the break because it's been a busy summer here in the United States. We've had several storms with floods, tornadoes, and wildfires. So having a little bit of a calm pattern here is not such a bad thing. High pressure, it could be a good thing for the United States for the long term. It brings in drier air and less chances of moisture, though. But a lot of the farmers need that dry weather right now anyway as we approach our harvest season. So a lot of the rain and the cold that I'm seeing right now is basically in that polar jet region that we're going to see during La Nina. So everything, and if it's getting that chilly now, I hate to see what January and February bring for us. Hopefully it's not as bone chilling as what we saw back in 2014, but time will tell. All right, Mari, that's all I got for tonight. Did you want to say hello to anybody in the chat? Lots of familiar faces out there tonight.
Oh, there's loads of people in here tonight.
Good to see everybody.
Jake. I don't even know if I can list everyone up.
Thank you, Tug Tall, for that little donation there.
Tug Tall, yes, thank you. Also, Ian Robinson, thank you for the super chat as well. We have seen so many people in the chat, and now I'm putting my order together for groceries. We're talking about autumn and fall and the scents and the feels and all that. Yep. And everyone is making me starving because I want pumpkin pie. So everything pumpkin spice, Jake. I know it's your favorite.
Nope.
Anyway, Dorothy Rose, Kathy D, Knife Collector, Matt Bros is in there, Mr. Morgan Kell, Richard, Pizza Hut, Adam, Justin Yang was in there, Richard. Jerome, April, Rhea, Old South Farm from Alabama, Laura Ira, Ben Garcia. Ben actually said he's trying to be, I forgot what his percentage, he wants to be about 90% self-sufficient for food, raising his food and growing his food by next year. He's set that goal, so I wish him well on that, and I know he can do it. It's exciting to see people doing that, being prepared. Who else? Jesse is in there. Did we say hi to Jesse?
Jesse Vorwaltz, and then Richard. I saw Richard.
Lisa, Tom, and Tugta.
Matthew McDonald and Matt Bros. Thank you, Dorothy Rose. We greatly appreciate the love, folks, making us feel special tonight.
That is very kind, which is great because it's going to help me pay my bill for the website this week. Thank
That's
you.
True. Really, don't want to forget that. Don't.
Very helpful.
Wake up in the morning and there's a Captain Crunch website in place of it. So we got to stay on top of that. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight on our Grand Solar Minimum News Update. We will try to be live again tomorrow, Tuesday night. Don't hold us to it, but we will be back for sure by Wednesday. We're going to try to pick up the schedule a little bit as there is a lot to talk about. Space weather, climate weather, volcanoes and earthquakes. Too much to mention in one night, so we're going to have to continue these multi-night broadcasts. Jesse, thank you. Pumpkin Spice Fun. Wow, good job. All right, guys, thanks again for all your kind words and your support. And until next time, we will talk soon. Be safe, guys.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.